I now call on Claudia Beamish, a generous 7 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Agricultural Holdings Amendment Scotland Bill makes a modest contribution in clarifying and rationalising the relationships between landlord and tenant in the sector, and as such, Scottish Labour supports its passage today. In relation to succession, the Cabinet Secretary stated at Stage 2 the broadening of the definition of near relative to grandchildren will, I quote, help to meet our objective of widening the class of people entitled to that degree of protection. In a keenness to encourage the opportunities for new entrants, we would argue, as we did at Stage 1, that further consideration should also be given in the future to the extension to nephews and nieces, despite the previous consensus of the Tenant Farmers Forum on this issue. This would further broaden the opportunities for new entrants into the sector, and I note the Cabinet Secretary's remarks in relation to the TFF workstream in that regard. I welcome the initiatives for new entrants by the Scottish Government, including the new entry panel, and note the remarks about the National Reserve, and certainly Scottish Labour members on the Race Committee and also ourselves, my colleague Claire Baker and I and others will be working hard to help with moving forward the cap in this regard, to give a broader opportunity for new entrants, amongst other issues. I wonder if the Cabinet Secretary, in his closing remarks, could comment on progress in relation to the development of the conservation tenancies as mooted by RSPB and others, in addition to the organisations that he has already highlighted today who are working to broaden the tenancies that they can offer. As has been acknowledged by many throughout the passage of the bill, there are many wider issues which still need to be resolved in order for the sector to move forward in a confident and secure way from the perspective of both landlords and tenants. The Tenant Farmers Forum has reached consensus on a number of challenging issues at the start and during the progress of this bill. However, this has been an uneasy consensus in our view on some of the challenging issues. In visiting estates, meeting landlords and tenants over the last few months, especially in South Scotland, I've seen much good practice. I've seen examples of major investments such as a new state-of-the-art milking parlour and also a large range of sheds for free-range chickens, to highlight but two. However, concerns expressed to the Race Committee during their visit to Bute, which Margaret MacDonald and I'm sure other members will highlight today and touch on, listening to evidence in committee and written evidence to the committee on tenancy matters, I'm also keenly aware of the need to reach a stage where, more generally, the individual who owns is confident to let, and the individual who rents is confident to invest. There are those who say that the sector should be left in peace to get on with things. There are others who say, enough chipping away at the landlord's rights. And there are others again who say that their rights as tenants are unclear and do not offer enough security. In the TFF, there has been an apparent consensus leading to the bill, as I highlighted earlier. However, this really has been uneasy on a number of matters and hasn't always been a consensus, in my view, between equal partners. In this context, the future work plan of the TFF is to be welcomed in working towards a tenanted sector where fairness and certainty is reached. Douglas McAdam of Scottish Land and Estates has said that agricultural holdings legislation is complex and emotive. However, it is important that everyone with an interest, particularly politicians and decision makers, have clear, hard facts at their disposal. The industry as a whole would benefit from a more evidence-based approach. I'm sure that all those on the Tenant Farmers Forum agree with this approach, which must lead to a settled and fair outcome for all. The rent review section of this bill is a step forward, and I believe there is consensus in the Chamber about this. Today's announcement by the Cabinet Secretary that an independent rent review group for secure tenancies is to be set up is very welcome, as is the offer of technical and secretarial support and a clear reporting timeline. How regularly should rent be reviewed, even if not always changed? Is rent to be determined by the market alone or by some additional measure? Analysis of the current process, scrutiny of Section 13 of the Act and of the previous Act and of the English system will enable the sector to work towards a model which it's hoped will bring confidence to both sides. Those named on the group will inspire confidence in the process through the respect for their independence and their experience and expertise, including the very necessary legal representation. The committee suggested that the Scottish Government and the TFF should re-examine the issue of investment in holdings to clarify who is responsible and to find, I quote, the most appropriate balance for the creation of a vibrant and healthy tenanted farming sector. The inclusion in the work programme of the TFF of this issue will focus the different perspectives, and the possibility of investment protocols may well be a useful way forward. Diversification is also a welcome aspect for the work programme for the consideration of the group. And the bringing of clarity to WAGO compensation is also essential. A clear timeline on working to resolve these issues is imperative, and the reporting to the Scottish Government. And the Race Committee, of which I am of course a member, will take a keen interest in these issues as well. The aim must be to bring certainty to the sector, help to restore trust where it has been broken, and we support the bill as part of this process, but in doing so hope that this is another step forward and not an end in itself. Thank you.